Okay. So tonight I'm going to tell a story of sugar which involves several different threads. It's not the only story of sugar. It's not the story of slavery in Jamaica, for example, which is a very important story of sugar. Nevertheless, it's another one that impacts all of us in some way, or know someone who's been impacted. It's a story of policy, and that's where we're going to start, and the unintended consequences of some of our policies. Particularly the Farm Bill is a policy that aims to protect farmers and support them by subsidizing the growing of certain commodity foods, one of which is corn, soy, wheat. And they do that for primarily two reasons. One is to have a consistent source of income and stability for the farmers, and also so that they can be very competitive on the global marketplace. So it's very involved with trade, because when it's subsidized, they can sell on the market for much less, and so we become very competitive. One of those commodities that we subsidize heavily is corn, and with a plethora of corn available, it's able to be turned into high fructose corn syrup very profitably, and that is able to be sold to manufacturers at an incredibly low price, making their products, the margins on their products, incredibly big. And one of the chief things that high fructose corn syrup becomes is sugar-sweetened beverages. It's not the only sweetener that is used. There's also cane sugar and sugar beet sugar, all of which are highly processed. High fructose corn syrup is not the only sugar that appears in many of these products, but as much as 74% of packaged goods in supermarkets have added sugar in them. Just a lot. So these are some products that have added sugar. Obviously, Pop-Tarts has added sugar, but these are also branded as low-fat products. And so when you take the fat out, which is the oil and the butter, things have less taste and texture, and so they add sugar and fillers to make them taste good, which just increases the sugar content of all of these products. These are just some of the names of sugar. I think there are 60 some odd different names for sugar. Almost all of them are processed in some way. And it's the processing that changes it from one thing to another thing, changing their impact on our biology in a very big way. The average American eats 66 pounds of sugar a year, which meters out to about 23 teaspoons of sugar a day. And there's 12 in a can of Coke. So Coke and a candy and a ice cream, and there we go. So in the past century, sugar consumption has risen dramatically, particularly after World War II, which is correlated with the increased prevalence of obesity, which is somewhat intuitive, but it's also related to dozens of other problems in the body, many of which starts with various kinds of inflammation, including diabetes, heart disease, breast cancer, lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, and many others. So it's a very disruptive force in the body. What happens when you have, so let's back up. And so when you think about our biology, we're the current iteration of human for about 40 to 50,000 years. And it's the same biology back then as we have now, with the same organs and hormonal systems that didn't have that influx of technology manipulating our food. So our bodies are meant to eat whole foods, how they appeared, and not highly processed with the additional technologies that really transform them into completely different foods, different substances that our bodies do not biologically process very well. So this is some of the things that happen in your body when you have sugar. First thing, the teeth and gums, it changes the bacteria in your mouth, which creates gum disease and tooth decay. The pancreas cranks out insulin to try and balance out the blood sugar. Excess glucose goes into the liver, it turns into fat, then gets stored. And then it suppresses the immune system for up to a couple of hours. It increases your blood pressure because all this stuff is happening. Cortisol is the stress hormone which gets released to try and manage all the stuff that's happening. And then you get a hit of dopamine. The pleasure center gets kicked in. And that's happening on a couple of levels. The sugar itself is a rush, but then it's the same chemical pathway, the same neural pathway as the pleasure center, like to a highly addictive substance like cocaine. The addiction process is a result of, is at least partly due to the way it's processed. We get heroin from poppy seeds because it's a very highly processed, transformative process to this natural plant. And the same thing happens when we transform one plant into a sugar substance. Sugar beets, sugar cane, and corn are all major sources of our sugars that are turned into basically addictive substances. An addiction is when we crave something. We rationalize for it, we plan for it, we need it, we automatically do things. Oh, that's just the way I do it. We hide things. I'll just have this so nobody sees. So you can think about your relationship to sugar, and maybe there is a small addiction, maybe there's no addiction. But if you become aware of how you relate to sugar, you might be aware of some of these things that are happening in your body, and the less sugar, refined sugar that you eat, the better it is going to be for your health overall. The body does need sugar. It's the primary fuel of the body, especially the brain, is glucose. It's just that, but your body makes glucose by breaking down complex carbohydrates, so it doesn't need any added sugar for your energy, and all those added sugars aren't good for you.